Welcome to the regular monthly meeting of the Camden Advisory Board of Education.
This meeting was given at least 48 hours in advance. On May 22nd, 2014, notice was mailed to the Courier Post and the Avdare. Notice was also posted on the bulletin board located by the reception desk at the central office of all school building bulletin boards within the district. Roll call.
Yes, hi, good evening. Ms. Atwood? Here. Mr. Rito Bueno?
Here.
Ms. Dudley? Ms. Pasquarello? Here. Ms. Minier? Minister Mohammed? Mrs. Reyes-Morton? Mrs. Wilson?
Present.
And Ms. Blackshear?
Here.
Student Advisory Board members?
Please to the flag. Executive session. Can I get a motion to go into executive session? Can I get roll call?
Okay. Ms. Atwood?
Yes.
Mr. Rito Bueno?
Yes.
Ms. Burley?
Yes.
Ms. Pasquarello? Yes. Ms. Munir? Minister Mohammed? Ms. Reyes-Morton? Yes. Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Blackshear?
Yes. We should be out in an hour.
Okay. The board will go into closed session to discuss matters of personnel, individual privacy, matters required to be kept confidential by law, and matters falling within the attorney-client privilege category.
And we should be back out closer to 6:15.
Can I get a motion to come out of close?
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Atwood? Mr. Rito Bueno? Ms. Burley? Ms. Pasquarello? Yes. Ms. Munir? Yes. Minister Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. Reyes-Morton? Mrs. Wilson? Yes. Ms. Blackshear?
Yes. Superintendent?
So before I present the superintendent's report, I believe our board president, Ms. Blackshear, would like to make a few comments.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Tonight, as board president, I want to take a moment to talk about what happened in Ferguson in New York City. And I want to thank the superintendent and his team for making time for us to talk about this as a community. First of all, it pains me that two black families lost black men that were so important to them, one a son and one a father. And it has been heavy on my heart to watch the TV and see so many people in pain and confusion as everyone tries to deal with those losses while understanding how we move forward in society. People know me. I've prayed and prayed and prayed on answers to all of this, and it's hard to understand what we need to do to heal. I personally keep praying for answers and hope that will find a way to help us through. But I know too that there's something more we need to do to help people think, reflect, and listen to their hearts. When things like this happen, sometimes we need to take a moment and we need to just listen, even listen to ourselves. It really saddens me to know that y'all know me, I'm going off script. I had to go off script. I was talking to my mother about this, and my mother told me that black people like me in my generation, we taught our kids totally different than what she taught me. I didn't have that boldness like a lot of our kids have that boldness. Not saying that it's right or wrong, because color shouldn't even matter to any of us in our lives. We should all be way past that. And like my mom said, here it goes, rising its ugly heads again. And she told me, daughter, you keep on praying, because that's the only way things are going to work in this country. No matter what religion or who you answer to, we all got to pray. Because if we don't see the signs, it haven't gotten better. And I'm not going to say it's gotten worse. I just feel as though we just need to really pray, pray, pray. Because our nation needs healing, and we need it quick and fast. Please take the time out over the holiday break to hug your loved ones a bit tighter. And remember that while tomorrow isn't promised to anyone, we all have a duty to make a better, brighter one for all of us. I had a friend that just recently passed. She was my next door neighbor for 20 years. And I looked out the window on Sunday, and my spirit said, you know, she didn't know that 2014 was going to be her last year on earth. So we need to live life one day at a time. And the reason why I went through that was because I was worrying about, should I finish my Christmas or should I pay bills? Well, I went out and finished my Christmas, because tomorrow's not promised to me. I want to thank everyone, and I want you to go home and hug your loved ones, because tomorrow isn't promised to them. We need to love and pray. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blacksher.
And that was my own personal opinion. So I don't want anybody to call
Understood.
up saying
Understood.
anything. And not pay bills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to move to the podium to provide the superintendent's presentation. I'm going to ask Ms. Munir to give a quick translation to our Spanish-speaking audience members about the equipment that they can use, the translation equipment.
Okay, para toda la gente hispana que están aquí ahora, nosotros tenemos unos headsets ahí afuera para que se lo pongan y puedan oír lo que está diciendo el superintendente en español. Gracias.
As some folks are finding their way to their seats, I'll go ahead and begin. So good evening, everybody. I know this is a smaller, significantly smaller audience than we're accustomed to, but there is quite a bit in the superintendent's report. So I just want to acknowledge that up front. Before I jump into the agenda, I want to just give a few general updates. One, and these updates, for those that attend regularly, are driven by the conversations we have regularly in our schools and the feedback and concerns that we hear. We continue to hear a lot from our families, and certainly in the last board meeting, about the number of substitutes in our schools. And I just want to quickly address that. Substitutes are driven by two factors. One, potential vacancies, and two, teachers who are either calling out sick or on long-term leave. Currently, as far as teacher vacancies go, out of 1,100 teaching positions, we only have 6 vacancies, so it's less than 1% of our positions, which is phenomenal. What the substitute, the number of substitutes, which on any given day we have 185, what it's driven by, approximately 80 teachers are on long-term leave currently. Approximately 12 to 15 teachers are on suspension, which I should have noted is another driver of substitutes. And on any given day, roughly 100 teachers are calling out. And so these are all contractual rights, and we honor those rights, but I did want to just make eminently clear that the number of substitutes is not driven by vacancies. And again, that is something that we heard in our last board setting, and we've heard in other conversations, and I just wanted to be as clear as possible. Secondly, we heard a lot of feedback about after-school programming, And as of today, 22 out of 24 schools have submitted plans and obtained approval for after-school programming. The majority of those schools will begin programming by the week, but basically as of this week, and some schools are going to opt to start their programming when students and staff arrive after the holidays. The programs are very diverse. They range from literacy writing enrichment, math enrichment, park preparedness support, drama, STEM, etc. All right, so our agenda today, as you can see on the next slide, covers a wide range of items, and I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. I want to just begin by acknowledging we have completed the calendar. I actually brought a hard copy with me to hold up here, and I'm realizing I left it at my desk back there. We are anticipating the calendars will return from the print shop early next week. If anyone wants to see a version of it, you can come approach me after the meeting. Barring any changes to the production timeline, we will deliver to schools and students to take home the first week of the new year. So before I go any further, I'm pleased to introduce a few guests. Here's the calendar. Yeah, there it is. All right. I'm pleased to introduce a few guests who are here to discuss the ambulatory care partnership. And we mentioned this in our last board meeting. This is an incredible opportunity for our students. And so before, without any further ado, I want to introduce Chris Calori, who's the CEO of Rowan University Rutgers Camden Board of Governors. And he's joined by Jared Susko, Chief Operating Officer of the Camden Coalition of Healthcare Providers, and Kat Royer, who's also with the Coalition of Healthcare Providers.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak for a few minutes. I hope you can hear me. It's really good to be back here at Dudley. Not that long ago, I was the CEO of the Schools Development Authority, and this was the first school I helped open. And if you remember, this was the oldest school in the city before it was raised and built. And I also was honored to work with many of the board members to open Cato. Thank you so much. And help start Morgan Village construction as well. So it's so nice to be back here to brief you on the human infrastructure side of the things that we're working on. As the superintendent said, I'm the CEO of the Rowan Rutgers Board of Governors. Let me give you just two statistics that I think really frame what we're trying to do at the Board of Governors. 86,000. There are 86,000 jobs today that are supported in the healthcare field in Camden, Gloucester, and Burlington counties. Only transportation and utilities have a higher employment rate than healthcare. Number two, in the next decade, healthcare employment is going to grow by 17% just in South Jersey. The Board of Governors has one single mission, which is to create a pipeline of educated healthcare workers in Camden and in South Jersey to meet the demand. So one of the very first programs that we announced in partnership with the superintendent and the Camden Coalition of Healthcare Providers is a medical assistance training program or ambulatory care training program. I'll just frame this really quick, and I'll turn it over to Kat, who's going to give you an update that's on the presentation. Our thinking was very straightforward. If there is a demand growth for healthcare employment in the next decade, then shouldn't we be doing something to educate and prepare the kids in high school today? That was a simple proposition we started with. So what we essentially said is we're going to hire or recruit 10 high school students in the next month. Get them a job, an apprenticeship position at Cooper Hospital or Lawrence Hospital, fully paid. And once those students graduate from high school, get them a medical certificate program at Camden County College. And if they successfully complete that program, we'll get them a job at Cooper Hospital. Now, the fundamental precept of the program was not just to give them an opportunity to be educated and employed, but to make sure when their education happens, we do it debt-free. Because there's no point in getting somebody to go learn something if you're going to burden them with debt from the very beginning. So we came up with 2 specific streams of revenues that'll help fund these students' education. One is a federal program that retrains youth in employment and re-education, and that's a federal program. And in partnership with the New Jersey Education Association, we were able to come up with another $20,000. So if students don't qualify for the federal grant, then we'll be able to give them grant through the New Jersey Education Association. So the thinking here is that we ought to get these kids an apprenticeship program, an education, and an employment debt-free. And if we can do this, I think we'll be in a position to replicate this in years to come. I know 10 students doesn't sound like a lot, but already, thanks to the work that Kat and Jared and others have done, we have interest from 27 students. So I'm going to turn it over to Kat to give you an overview. I'm so grateful to the superintendent. I'll tell you, I approached him 4 months ago about this program, and within 15 minutes he said this is exactly the kind of program we ought to be doing. So I'm very grateful for your partnership and the support of the board. Thank you so much.
Me. I'm very excited to be here, and we're very excited about this program. My name is Kat, as I said, and Jared and I are from the Camden Coalition of Healthcare Providers. And just a little history about our organization. We are a nonprofit located in the city of Camden, and we work with people who have been in and out of the hospital a lot and have a lot of medical and social issues, and we have a community-based care team that works with them to help them manage their chronic conditions and ultimately keep them out of the hospital. And our involvement in this program is project management, but also helping to develop some of the training for the students. So this is just a snapshot of what the next 12 months will look like with respect to this program. So right now we are in recruitment and interviewing mode for the students. And as Chris said, we actually have 37 students that are interested in the 10-slot program, which is really exciting. And those students are coming from Camden High and Woodrow Wilson. And back in November, we actually met with guidance counselors from those schools to tell them about the program, and they were all very excited and supportive, which has been great. So actually today was our first group interview at Woodrow Wilson, and it was a great success. There was 24 students there that were interested, and I was not there, unfortunately, but from what I've heard, all the students are extremely talented and really excited about this program, and it's going to be hard to narrow that number down. So the start date for the apprenticeship is February 3rd. Actually, can you go back? I'm sorry. The start date for the apprenticeship is February 3rd, which is the start date of the second semester for the students. And basically, the apprenticeship is really going to involve the students working at outpatient medical offices in the city of Camden, potentially in Cherry Hill and Pennsauken. And basically what they're going to do is they're going to do administrative and clerical duties, such as filing medical records, maybe contacting patients by phone who have missed appointments, but they're also going to have the opportunity to shadow current medical assistants and see what they do on a daily basis. And what's really exciting is while they're doing their apprenticeship, which is going to be during the last 6 months of high school, they're going to not only get paid, but they're also going to be able to earn vocational credit that will go towards their diploma, which is great. So what the schedule looks like now is they might work from 1:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, basically. And the pay rate would be, we're still working on that, but maybe around $10 or $11 an hour, which is really, really wonderful. And so during this apprenticeship, during the last 6 months of high school, our organization is going to be providing a lot of training for the students. So not only are we going to talk about things like professionalism with them, but we're also going to talk about how to build relationships with patients, how to engage patients, because these are things that we find really important in the work that we do. We also have AmeriCorps members at our organization that are going to serve as mentors for these kids as well, which is exciting. So they will have support during those last 6 months. And then finally, after the apprenticeship is finished and after they graduate high school, they'll be enrolled at Camden County College in the Medical Assistant Certificate Program. And again, our organization is going to be involved in enhancing that curriculum. So not only are they going to learn about medical terminology and anatomy and physiology, but they're also going to learn about things like trauma-informed care and harm reduction, which again is something that we feel is a need, especially in the work that we do and working with patients. Next slide. And as Chris said, after they finish at Camden County College, they'll be able to get full-time jobs at healthcare organizations across the city. So we had our kickoff meeting for this program in early November, so it's only been a couple months, but I feel like we've had a lot of success in just a short amount of time. So as I said, in working with the school district, we worked out that students could get paid and could get credit while they're doing this apprenticeship during the school day. As Chris mentioned, we were able to get additional funding from the New Jersey Education Association, which will not only help to fund the program, but will again provide tuition assistance to students who might not qualify for another scholarship. And we have confirmed some spots for the apprenticeship at various healthcare organizations. And like I said, we identified 37 students who are interested, which is really exciting. And just some things that we have to accomplish in the future is, like I said, all of these students seem really excited and very talented, so I think it's going to be a struggle to identify 10. And I think one thing that we've talked about is just making sure that these kids can get to the apprenticeship. We realize that transportation might be an issue, but we are committed to helping students with that and not ruling anyone out just because they can't get there. And again, like I said, we're going to work on developing that enhanced curriculum at Camden County College. And that's pretty much it. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you. So from what I know, the charter schools, students in those schools wouldn't be eligible for the scholarship through One Stop. Brim. Okay.
East.
Yeah, so we've been working with BRIM as an example. It's just that Camden High and Woodrow, I identified students first, and we just haven't heard of students yet from those schools. But I think that's, we aim to target them in the future. It's just right now I think we're working on a tight time frame. Mm-hmm.
The goal for this program is to be the first of many cohorts. So this is we're just in startup mode right now. So we're hoping to expand it as funding, time, capacity allows. So.
Thanks, Chris, Kat, and Jared.
Thanks. Actually, there was just one more thing I wanted to add. One of the things we're really excited about this program from the Camden Coalition of Healthcare Providers standpoint is that the training that we're going to be offering these students is not just to be the MAs of today, but to really be the MAs of tomorrow. The jobs that Chris is talking about that are growing in New Jersey are in a new field which is called population health, which is not just about managing the health of individuals, but managing the health of populations. And the skills that we're supplementing the curriculum and the apprenticeships with are really about training MAs of tomorrow. So we're actually really excited to be a part of this partnership with Rutgers Rowan, with the school district and the Camden Coalition, and with Camden County College. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for bringing this opportunity to us. All right. Very briefly, I want to touch on school information cards. As many of you all know, we received feedback from nearly 500 Camden stakeholders as part of this summer's Let's Talk About Great Schools campaign. And so this month we are sharing the draft of what the school information card could look like. And so we have copies of that draft available at the check-in table outside. Maybe some of you all have copies. The idea is that these school information cards provide all Camden residents and interested community members information about all of Camden schools, including charter and Renaissance schools. Any feedback you have, you can email it to communications@camden.k12.nj.us. And we are aiming to, upon feedback, receiving feedback on the school information cards, to release the final product in spring of 2015. So this is effectively what the school information card will capture, and that's data and information about the schools, a summary of school visits. So it's one thing to look at proficiency rates and graduation rates and data in and of themselves, but also to look at what you see qualitatively when you visit a school. What does the culture and climate feel like based upon the observations of seasoned educators? And then thirdly, we're going to include survey results, and we're actually going to share with you all the recent survey findings later in this presentation. I mentioned there was a lot of news to share. Some of you all know that the state recently released state graduation rate results across all schools in the state of New Jersey, and we have some very encouraging and positive news to share. The Camden's district's graduation rate increased from 56% to 62%, as you see here on the left-hand side, and that is compared to the statewide total. So as you can see, we clearly are not where we would like to be as far as the overall outcomes, and we certainly can do better than 62%, and this is a conversation I've had now at each of our high schools, but there is certainly a lot to be proud of and a lot to be pleased with a 6% increase. As you'll see here on this slide, that increase is in large part driven by Woodrow Wilson having a 10-point improvement from 50% to 60%. Camden High School also improved by 5 percentage points from 47 to 52. And our three magnet schools stayed where they were for the most part. As you can see, Brim Medical Arts with 96% is above the state average, Creative Arts at 91% is above the state average, and Med East at 79% is near the state average. So we have a lot to be proud of our students, and we're going to continue to ensure going forward that we raise those figures, we raise the bar. Just a few additional highlights to point out. In addition to what I mentioned about Camden High and Woodrow Wilson, if you look specifically at students with disabilities and English language learners, we saw meaningful improvement. So for our students with disabilities, there was a 4 percentage point increase from 2013, and it's a 12 percentage point increase since 2012. And for ELLs, we saw an even greater jump, a 14 percentage point increase for ELLs across the district, and that's significant, and we should all be proud of that. Now, going forward, we want to, I should say, today, we're thankful to our staff and to our teachers and our guidance counselors specifically who worked with our students to get them to the finish line. We had a large number of students graduate through the appeals process, which is a credit to the staff who worked with them to get through that process. And going forward, we want to make sure that we raise the bar and that we ensure that students graduate at a higher rate through the more traditional pathways while also taking advantage of the appeals process. So I mentioned that we have our latest survey results, and there's a lot to share. We try to narrow it down to the more kind of relevant takeaways. So before we jump in, these are the survey respondents. So as you can see here, we surveyed all students, high school, middle school, elementary school, and we had a fairly high response rate from the students. As you can see here, 66% of high school students, and then the vast majority of middle school and elementary school students. We also surveyed our staff, our teachers, and parents. Parents, I'll acknowledge here at 25%, had a relatively lower response rate than the others who were surveyed. So generally speaking, these are the categories where we asked each of these stakeholders to respond to: community and collaboration, family community engagement, culture and climate, so morale in school, the safety in school, safety outside of school, the physical environment of our schools, social and emotional supports, and of course, teaching and learning. So I'm going to start with staff. The key takeaways here are that school staff feel that parents are becoming more engaged in their child's education, and you see that that percentage increase there at the bottom, 15 percentage point increase as far as the staff's perception of families becoming more engaged in their students' work. The staff, it's also worth noting on the far right, there's an increase in administrative support. So it has gone from 31% to 41% favorability. 41% is still not good enough, but I do believe that's progress worth calling out. Generally speaking, if you look at morale in schools in the very middle, stayed at 24%, and that's not also where we would like to be as far as the way our staff are viewing overall morale. So some signals here that things are moving in the right direction, and of course some indications that we still have a lot of work to do. From our students, elementary school students are feeling more positively about their schools in just about every category. And I should have mentioned in the previous slide, the green bars on the left are 2 years ago, and the blue bars represent last school year. So it reflects the year-over-year progress or lack thereof. But with elementary school students, you see improvement in just about every single category, with the exception of parental support, which was already really high. And you'll see that for elementary and middle school students, they typically feel as though they have a lot of support at home. It's a little bit different once you get to high school students. I'd say as far as a challenge, on the far right, you can see that we actually have a negative figure, which just means there's a net disfavorable impression of students' peers. So when peers look at their interaction with other students inside of a school building, there are some issues there. Now, a lot of that can be attributed to these are young students being polled. And I think I mentioned this in last year's presentation. If you polled me as a third grader, caught me on a bad day, as a student who just moved here from another country, I probably, those considerations would have been reflected in my answers. So, you can only look so far into these numbers, both the positive and the negative takeaways. But I do think, in general, we should be mindful of what our students are telling us and mindful of what all of our surveyed respondents are telling us. And so, as far as student relationships, we have some work to do, and I think some of that touches on HIB issues that have come up over the last 15 months and just other cultural issues. But for the most part, we should be very pleased with these results. For middle school students, we see similar improvements. They feel more safe and more supported by their teachers. The peer relationships also continue to be a challenge, as you'll see on the far right, but that did improve by 16 percentage points. So again, similar trends to elementary school in middle school. This gets at middle school and high school students, and specifically as it relates to safety outside of school. What we found in our survey results, while there are some positive trends and some negative trends, this is the most significant positive trend that we see. And so what the student is responding to here is, how safe do you feel outside and around school? Last year, only 20% of both middle school and high school students felt safe in or around school. This year, that number jumped significantly by over 40 points for middle school and roughly 34 points for high school students. I do believe that this is driven by the work we've done with Camden County Police Department and with our family engagement efforts, so specifically Safe Corridors and our Parent Rangers program, which recently took off. And so we should be really proud of this result. And I do think it's a tribute to all the folks on our team, all of our community school coordinators, the Camden County Police Department, and the many others who are involved in ensuring that in morning and afternoon arrival and dismissal, there's more of an adult presence. High school students, there are still some challenges, and you don't see the incremental improvements that you saw with elementary school, middle school students. So with our high schoolers, they're acknowledging a lot of challenges, whether it's the physical environment of their schools, and we're going to touch on Camden High in a little bit, to, again, the student relationships, and you didn't see improvements across the board. And I think this speaks to the need for the investments we're making in our high schools, from CTE programming to a stronger curriculum, increased supports for counseling, the building repair issues. So I do think that this is very much a reflection of the many issues we've been discussing here in our board meetings. Just to close things out here, we've touched, again, on some positive, some negative. This falls into an area where we'd like to see some improvement, and that's roughly half of our elementary school students and a little less than half of middle school and high school students, and approximately half of parents are telling us that they wish their student went to a different school. That's not what we'd like to see. It is consistent with what we see in the special transfer process. So within our district schools, we do see a lot of movement and a desire expressed from some parents to transfer, and it's something that we're going to continue to work on. This gets at the everything that we're doing, the Camden commitment, just needing to see improvement across various strata. So again, just some summary takeaways. Our teachers are telling us a few things, and that's they're not currently satisfied with the work that I'm doing in moving the district forward. And I think that anytime you're showing survey results, you have to be self-effacing. You have to acknowledge the hard facts. And this is one of them, that our teachers are telling me and telling our team that there's more work that we can do. Our parents are telling us, on the second bullet here, 64% are satisfied with the leadership here. And that's a positive signal. But again, it's a mixed bag of results when our staff are telling us that there's more than we can be doing. And so, as part of our continued efforts, we're going to be, and based on really the findings of this survey, we want to kick off a teacher roundtable. And we'll talk about this more in future meetings, but we want to find teachers who have a lot of different opinions about things that are working and things that aren't, to meet with me and meet with our leadership team to share out those perspectives, because as you all know, we do take listening and learning quite seriously, and we just want to continue in that effort. Very briefly, I know a number of the people here today were a part of our school and family meetings. So we went to every single family school, every single K-8 school, and we've now done at least one high school to have a candid conversation about our latest test results, have a candid conversation about the work that we're doing as it relates to Camden Commitment, and talk about where we're not making enough progress, what decisions we need to make to see the improvements that our children deserve. So, fundamentally, those conversations were getting at the core of the efforts underway, getting to at the core of what these test results mean in terms of life opportunities for our kids, while also acknowledging that test scores don't tell you everything. So, on average, we had about 22 parents and teachers at each of these school meetings. The common issues that came up, I'm sure won't shock anyone here, just how I can better support my student. A lot of questions about special education, how I can prepare my students for Park and Common Core. So I thought it was a good opportunity to sit down and continue in those discussions. So good segue to Common Core and Park. The survey that I just alluded to included a question to our staff about Common Core, and what they told us, 80% of our teachers feel informed about Common Core. Now, that's not to say that every last person in Camden feels as though they know everything about Common Core. We've got a lot of work to do. So what I do want to make clear is that beginning in January, we're going to launch a Park and Common Core informational campaign across the city, and this is going to be a multi-week, if not multi-month endeavor from family workshops. We're going to put some public service announcements on CCSD-TV, and we're, of course, going to have just as much information available for our students and families. And I know that our Student Advisory Board members regularly raise these questions, and so we're going to work with them as well. So as the Park test approaches, our Office of Technology will provide additional implementation supports to our schools. The state recently visited and told us that they believe that our systems are in good shape as we head into the spring. And so we're confident that technically we're moving in the right direction. We're going to continue to iron out all the kinks that may exist. And in the meantime, we're going to engage the rest of the community as far as what Park and Common Core, the implications of Park and Common Core for our school district. Very briefly, I am statutorily mandated to provide a brief HIP, harassment, intimidation, and bullying mid-year report. And happy to take questions from our board members who I know are interested in this topic, but at a high level, during the period noted here, between September 2014 and November 2014, there have been 70 alleged incidents of HIB, and following proper investigation, 26 of these cases were confirmed. Now, for some context, during the same period last year, there were 80 alleged incidents of HIB and 23 confirmed cases. So there were fewer alleged incidents, but the total number of confirmed cases remained more or less the same. And we've discussed efforts underway to improve climate and culture in our schools, from our 5-school pilot of PIPSIS, and just across all of our schools utilizing a positive behavior incentive program as we move away from more punitive policies. Okay, so I now want to segue over into a business office report. We recently completed, I should say an independent auditor completed a financial audit, and I'm going to invite our acting School Business Administrator Chris Oberg to present out some findings of that audit.
Each of you this evening, as you came in, had available to you the audit synopsis as well as the corrective action plan. The audit synopsis takes what we worked on for the entire year, condenses it down, and gives you a brief snapshot as of June 30th how the district stands. Most of the time, people want to know, where are your fund balances? How did you end up? Where are you going forward? When they report out, and this is a summary, you have what are called restricted revenues, fund balances that are there. The restricted fund balances, you have an emergency reserve of $1 million. You have excess surplus, which was identified in this year's budget to be used for next year's budget. You also have excess surplus that was identified on June 30th of 2013 that is required to be and is being used to fund this year's budget. You then have what are called assigned. Year-end encumbrances, it shows on your balance sheet as a part of your reserves, your fund balances. What that actually is, in simplest terms, they're orders that we placed, and on June 30th, we had not either received them or had not received the invoices for them, and so they show on our books, they carry to the next year, so they're being used currently. Then you have the assigned, which is been assigned on June 30th for use this year, 14-15 that we're in, so we're using the designated during the budget process last year. That's the money that we're using. Then we have what we're legally permitted to have, which is the 2% that is a reserve that's there. It's an undesignated reserve that if there were an emergency in the district, let's say we had a roof collapse, we then could pull that out, fix the roof, and move on. So as it says at the bottom, yes, all those reserves are there on June 30th, but in actuality, on July 1st, when we start the new fiscal year, we only end up with $28 million instead of what the $36 million is saying.
So I want to talk about that $28 million, and I can recall in last year's audit findings presentation, there was a big number shared out, and it kind of gave the false impression that we had this massive fund balance when it didn't actually reflect the reality. It was more of an accounting kind of phenomenon. So the $28 million that you just heard from Chris, that was in our fund balance as of June 30th, 2014, is not actually, all of those funds are not available for our use immediately. $1.3 million were encumbered for 13-14. $18 million were used as part of last year's budget. And some of you all may remember that we offset our $75 million revenue shortfall, and I'll get into that in a minute, with that $18 million fund balance. And I made clear then, as I have in many subsequent conversations, that is why we're not out of the woods yet, because we used one-time money to plug a revenue shortfall. Now, what we do have available for next year's budget is $8.2 million. And so all of this sums up to the $28 million that you just saw. So again, roughly $20 million of that $28 million is already being accounted for. But we do have $8 million going forward. Just as a reminder again, the $18 million here in 14-15, this is where it came into play, where we had, again, the $75 million inherited revenue shortfall. We had some non-personnel cuts. We applied the fund balance, and the remainder were our personnel cuts at the central office and at the school level. Ms. Cosgrove.
Is there any concern
I'll quickly say that we have shared our preliminary budget findings just as we're sharing them with you now. We haven't heard any concerns from the state, but I'll let Chris add anything else.
The money that we're speaking of that's remaining is your 2% that you're permitted and the $1 million in emergency reserve. The other monies they can't take because they're already designated to be used either in the current year or, as Paymon mentioned, have been designated to be used in 15-16. So there is not a chance that they could pull that back.
So last year, $75 million shortfall, $18 million fund balance, which carries over as far as a structural gap. Now, for next year's budget, 2015-16, we're going to use $8 million to offset what our eventual gap will be. And again, we do have a gap because of the fact we used one-time money. So as we refine our budget numbers, as we learn more about what revenues we're receiving from the state and what costs we'll have in 15-16, we're going to share those numbers out with you all. You know, we'll develop those clear projections over the coming months, and certainly January, February, we're going to have more specifics to discuss. As far as the audit findings, I'm going to ask Chris to now come back up.
As a part of the audit, we review what was done the prior year when the audit came up and what occurred at this year. In the 12-13 audit, there were 11 recommendations. This year we've improved to where we have 9 recommendations by the auditing firm. The key thing is we did get the audit completed, and we met all the mandated timelines where it was filed timely, which in the past had not been done. So we are on a roll moving forward. As a part of the package that you also received, you'll find a copy of the corrective action plan. There were 9 recommendations. The first recommendation was the district cash reconciliations for the general fund, net payroll agency accounts were not prepared in accordance with the statute is there and included adjustments that were not identified. The way we're correcting that is the comptroller will reconcile the net payroll agency, general accounts monthly and identify all adjustments in accordance to the statute. Finding 2 was with regard to the receipts being promptly posted or deposited for food service and for the student activity accounts. What we've done is we've worked on and developed a process to ensure that the food service and student activity funds will be deposited promptly and accurately. The third finding, the district did not prepare a payroll agency analysis as part of the payroll agency account reconciliation. This resulted in accumulation of funds in this account that did not agree with liabilities subsequently paid to payroll agencies, also indicated unidentified monies in the payroll agency account. The manner in which we're going about to fix this, the majority of that was the money that was collected by the district. All employees have to pay toward their health benefits. Those monies have to be transferred to the general fund. The money was left in the payroll agency account, and we have already rectified that. The fourth finding was the district did not acquire a political contribution form for all contracts that are $17,500 or greater as required. There was one finding, there was one group that we brought in, that we properly went out and did the bidding or the RFP, and the one piece of paper that was missing was the political contribution form. The purchasing agent will make sure that on every contract that's issued, prior to actually giving the purchase order out, we will have each of those forms received, and that will correct that finding. Number 5 was the district did not withhold the proper amounts from employees for employer-provided health benefits as required under Chapter 78. The payroll manager will work with, the way we're going to correct it is the payroll manager will work with the HR staff to ensure that proper employee deductions are made for health benefits to comply. The sixth finding was the district complied with its policy, the district paid health benefits for terminated employees past the 1 month permitted by district policy. The way we're correcting it is employees that are terminated will have their benefits terminated after 30 or 60 days, depending on classification. This was a finding. We're in the state health benefits plan. The state health benefits plan requires for 10-month employees that we maintain their benefits for 60 days. 12-month employees are only required to be maintained for 30. So what's happening there again, the health benefits manager and the payroll manager will work together to make sure that those are notifications and that they will be correctly removed from our role on the medical. The seventh finding, the district did not comply with the purchasing bids, quotations, and state contract guidance provided under state contract law. Again, here we had a contract that was properly issued. However, once we hit the maximum that was approved by the board, it ended up that that contractor had to remain and provide some additional services. We did not go out a second time under the proper procedures. So here, what will happen is all departments, staff responsible for the use of federal programs will comply with federal and state purchasing guidelines. Each department will be required to follow state and federal requirements when procuring services, ensuring all bids, quotations, and federal and state contracts are in compliance with the state and federal laws. The eighth finding was the district did not maintain and could not provide support for its salary charges as required by Title I basic guidelines. Here, the corrective action, the federal government has and the state have recently imposed that for anyone that is charged to a federal grant, they are required, it is not optional, they are required to submit timesheets, and they must be submitted to the business office so that they can be tracked and maintained. If they are 100% charged, they only have to do it twice a year. If they are partially paid, they must file those reports monthly. So that is what is going to take place. The ninth and final finding was that there was differences between the district report of transported students and various supporting documents. When the auditor comes in and we submit the district report of transported students, we have them review it. The auditor came in and found that there were 1 or 2 students that were not reported correctly. They gave us those to correct. The department did not get them corrected. So all responsible staff will review all data points on the report of transported resident students and to identify and correct any deficiencies. That's the corrective action plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Ms.
We may have misread it, or it may be wrong in the plan, but you said that the staff salaries that were partial, part-time, were required attendance, time cards weekly. You said monthly. Is it weekly or monthly?
Technically, you have to do it monthly, but you are required to submit it for each day that you're working. It's because most timesheets are set up on a weekly basis and they're turned in. We expect them in the business office on a monthly basis.
Scott Scroll.
Just a couple of questions, please. Why is the treasurer receiving a bond at 6 times greater than the business administrator?
That's because it's statutorily required. They technically have access to all the funds, and your business. Yes, because I can sign the checks. They also sign. I cannot personally go and withdraw funds. The treasurer school funds can.
And I guess this is The advisory board members have been discussing the desire to resurrect the finance committee. Because a number of these findings came up when we had the finance committee, and we were able to resolve them and develop some corrective actions towards those. Now, this precedes both.
Sure.
So we think that having that finance committee could work with the administration, and in fact, Mr. Oberg and I have already talked about resolving, a method of resolving one of the touchy issues in the findings. So we would appreciate it if you would reinstitute that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to work with Board President Blackshear to think about the best way to approach that. We certainly want to leverage your institutional knowledge and again, any guidance you can provide to help us address these issues. Thanks. All right, so I'm going to very briefly go through district highlights. I'm going to begin with Camden High. I think just about everyone in here is aware of the SDA announcement. It's significant. I heard some modest applause. Don't be shy. It's fantastic news for us, for the district, and happy to have a longer conversation with the board members if you all like, but I'm just going to very briefly point out that it's at least a $50 million commitment from the SDA. So that's a floor, not a ceiling. I think that was lost a little bit in the shuffle. We think that it could be significantly more than $50 million. Now, it will help us create a 21st century high school campus, and the current thinking is that there would be 4 smaller learning communities within Camden High. It would all be run as a traditional district public high school, and we are seeking community feedback as to how this could all take shape. And but what we did announce specifically is that one of those smaller learning communities would be career and technical educationally focused. And so above and beyond that, we are excited over the coming months to get additional feedback from Camden High students, alumni, parents, community members to again hear directly from them what types of programming, what types of pathways make the most sense as those plans come together.
I have a question.
Yes.
You know, we're all grateful for the funds that we're having to implement the school, but what are we going to do with the field? Are we going to finish it up, or are we going to get the
In case anyone can't hear in the back, Advisory Board Member Munir just asked what happens to the field. The field has been renovated from some additional outside funds from the NFL and Philadelphia Eagles and U.S. Soccer Foundation.
Are you going to commit to that, like to finish it up?
So we are committing to finishing the rest of the work. Part of the SDA commitment would cover the field house. And anyone who's spent any time in the field house, it's in total disrepair and it's an embarrassment. And so the field house will be lumped into the total work that's happening there. The bleachers, we are going to have to continue to use external fundraising efforts to address. But the field house is significant that we were able to lump it in. But that would then cover, and there are some additional, like the new scoreboard and some fencing issues that have come up, and we're going to gather the team that helped get us to this point with all the fundraising that they've done to get it to the finish line.
So we're not going to forget about it, and you're basically going to put it part of your plans and finish it?
Correct.
I have a question regarding the renovation. I know that major improvements are going to be the enhancement of security as it relates to technology and doors. Question is now that also the field house, is $50 million going to be enough for the proposed improvements? And if not, do we have any additional resources that we can allocate so that we can have a completed project?
We have a firm commitment from the SDA that they will address the needs that we articulate. And so if we articulate 60, 70, $80 million of needs that are real, and our community is asking for it, I think that they're going to deliver those funds. So I'm confident that ultimately those needs will be met. We've got a lot of hard work ahead of us to articulate those needs and be really specific about what we would like to see. This was one of our very first priorities. When I was appointed, one of the very first school visits I did in my first week on the job. And we have been pushing the SDA and the state from the very beginning to get to this point. And it's a testament to the hard work of a number of people on our team. At times it was like banging your head against the wall, and there will be some more head banging going forward to get the funds that we need. But you certainly have our full support, and many of you who are close to Camden High will get an opportunity to sit down and weigh in on specific recommendations you have. So very quickly, there was a district-wide food drive, and we've collected 4,500 pounds of food to benefit local residents through the Food Bank of South Jersey. That is actually a district record, as I've been told. So thank you all who have helped be a part of this effort. I was recently at Cream School, where their anti-bullying specialist put together a really neat program called Stomp Out Bullying at Cream. And their 3rd, 4th, and 6th graders each put on a skit with an anti-bullying theme. And it was kind of set up as a, what's that dancing show with the judges? Dancing with the Stars. It was set up like Dancing with the Stars, and we acknowledged the efforts of those students. I was a guest judge, and it was a lot of fun. And it's a testament to the hard work of the Cream staff and Principal Gehring. At Forest Hill, they took on a Build Your Own Library initiative. Coordinated efforts of the Division of Family and Community Engagement, Office of Facilities, and the Forest Hill staff, and they received a donation of over 6,000 new books from the Cradles to Crayons organization. It's a nonprofit based in Philadelphia. So, neat initiative for them, and I know a number of our staff were present for that. There was a Hispanic Heritage Celebration. Over 100 students, parents, and community members were at the Kroc Center. This was in late November. And I want to give a special shout out to the District Parent Advisory Council and the Bilingual Office who helped throw this event. At Vet School, thanks to the Camden High JROTC and representatives from Junior Achievement, they all came together to facilitate a service learning project that benefited both the vets and the Camden High students, working closely together. The Camden High JROTC program, I want to acknowledge the fact that they won 1st place at the Armed Squad and 3rd place at the Unarmed Squad recently at an event in Pleasantville. So nice accomplishments for them. And lastly, I think this is fairly old news for a number of you all, but at Hatch School there was a new playground that came up thanks to the efforts of the families, community school coordinator, the principal, and other staff members who came together with a bunch of community volunteers. And basically in one afternoon, this entire playground came up. So it was a remarkable volunteering initiative, and I just wanted to acknowledge Queenberry, the Hatch CSC, and Principal Boyce for really kind of driving the bus there. And lastly, we'll have our retirement acknowledgements once the board comes back up. We'll read them off, but very briefly, you can see that there are 5 individuals and their respective years of service who we want to acknowledge and honor going forward. Thank you all very much.
At this time, we would like to acknowledge the 5 retirees. Louis Felton, 29 years of service. Keisha Jones, 14 years of service. Roger Robinson, 16 years. Deborah Taylor, 28 years. And Cecily Turpin, 26 years. We want to say thank you on behalf of the Camden City Board of Education and the Advisory Board for all of the work that you have put into working with our students. And we want to wish you a very happy holiday and best wishes.
So before we take any questions on the presentation or any items on the superintendent's agenda, we have one additional agenda item that will be added to the business office agenda, and it's item number 19. It's entitled Authorization to Submit the Proposed Acting School Business Administrator / Board Secretary Employment Contract to the Executive Camden County Superintendent for approval. Yep, happy to take questions.
The first one is, I just got back to the board, so I'm not sure if last month or not. Did you recognize the Camden Harvest Fest? Were you able to do that? The Camden Harvest Fest? Well, I went to the Camden Harvest Fest in November. The Community and Family Engagement help host with some community members, and it was a great event. I thought it definitely deserved a shout out. So thank you to all of the individuals who were a part of making that event a success. It entailed, providing food. There was raffles. There were creative arts was there. There was lots of dances, performances. Food baskets were given out from Aramark. It was a very successful event. So thank you all again who were involved with that. And my second inquiry was regarding, I was pretty excited that Payman and some of his administration went to the White House for the College Opportunity Day of Action. So I was wondering if you had any feedback or resources regarding your visit to the White House, and any strategic plans you might have with them as it relates to that.
Yeah, so I went to Washington, D.C. along with Chancellor Phoebe Haddon of Rutgers and Ray Yanuzzi, Camden County College president or chancellor, I forget his formal title. And it was a unique opportunity to hear directly from federal officials, and the president and the first lady and Vice President Biden all spoke. I would say my biggest takeaway was the importance of having a regular conversation with our local anchor university institutions, college institutions. We are in regular contact with them, but I think what that event highlighted for us was how complex this work is and how involved they need to be in ensuring that our students can properly articulate into a 2 or 4 year college program or find meaningful employment. And what we're going to be doing is having a regular roundtable, whether it's bi-weekly or how regular, I don't know. But we're working with Naima Watson in the Office of Civic Engagement and the other relevant officials from the other schools to just to sit down regularly and talk about, can we expand early college access programs? So students can actually take courses at one of those schools and start getting college credit early. Right. What goals should we set in SAT participation rate, for ACT participation rate, and what metrics we need to put into place as meaningful benchmarks going forward? And so that was my biggest takeaway, that the work just requires us to sit down and be more communicative. There wasn't any 1 or 2 things the White House said that we needed to do. It was just sit down, talk, and figure it all out together, because it's too complex for the president just to break it down in one speech.
I just heard they were reallocating some resources to AmeriCorps groups, and I know that there's an AmeriCorps group that's highly involved in the city. So I thought that was a great opportunity for good resources for us. And I also, with that being said, I asked Trey to get some information together with regards to the district update. As far, I know the park assessments are quickly approaching, but SATs, ACTs, College Board, they're also quickly approaching, to get kind of an update for the board and to see if it would be possible if you could provide an updated status for the public. I think they would really appreciate that, to see where we're going and where we're headed and where we end up.
Yeah, and we can incorporate that as part of the January park engagement strategy, and we'll share out the board meetings.
Thank you.
The updates there. Thanks. And by the way, the Harvest Festival, just an oversight on our part to not include it. So thanks for raising that.
It was an awesome event.
Yeah. Any other questions from board members? Ms. Coscarella.
Yes, thank you. I just, can I ask a question on the superintendent's report, or wait? Is that okay? Okay. The item 9 on page 51 of 53, where you're going to be tracking customer services to employees of the district for this school year. I'm just wondering what you intend to do with that, and will we have access to the results of that system?
What page was that on?
Page 51 of 53, item 9, authorization of the CCSD to accept a contract with Virtual Computing Solutions to provide online-based program to track customer services to employees of the district.
So this is an effort to be more responsive to both schools, staff within schools, and also our families. As we get questions from all of our stakeholders, this is a software that allows us to properly organize the issues and concerns and questions that are coming through. And so we can then follow up in a more efficient manner rather than just taking one phone call, writing down the notes on a sheet of paper and losing that sheet of paper. So it's just a more systematic approach. It's a CRM. It's a piece of software.
It's a great idea. I just would be interested, and I'm sure we all would be, in what are the core content concerns of
Sure.
most of our people.
Yeah, so once it's in place, it's something that we can come back to the board and discuss.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Can move to the business agenda.
Oh, yeah. What do we have we have the,
So the business office agenda items include the minutes from the previous meeting, the financial reports with the transfers, the treasury report, and the financial report for the month ending September 2014. There are 19 business office agenda items for the month.
Any questions for Regina, Chris? Okay.
No questions? Thank you.
Ms. Wilson?
I would just like to point out the fact
Your mic
that
down.
last night, Camden High's Parent and Teacher Association had a meeting with Paymon Hanafort and some of his staff. And you have heard me say in the beginning of the school year what my concerns were in reference to the park and Common Core, the fact that we have the Charlotte Danielson model in the school district, which was adopted in 2010 for the state of New Jersey. When Mr. Sean Gallagher came in, we invited him in to speak with the parents in reference to what was going on in the district. I could say that at the meeting last night, when the parents were asking questions, Mr. Gallagher has said to me, give us until the month of November, Ms. Wilson, and you'll begin to see the changes that you're talking about. My concern is that there was no professional development that we were aware of to deal with the Common Core. So I can say that I was at the meetings that took place for the professional development for the principals at the beginning of school, and that was when I had a major concern. I can say to you, after sitting in the meeting last night and the principal reporting out to the parents in reference to some of those items, I can see how it has now begun to fuse together. One of the major concerns I would always have was the fact that how well is the teacher connecting with the student, how well is the student moving forward with the information that they're receiving. And I can say to you that the report out from Mr. Thompson last night gave a true picture of how they're working together on a weekly basis, the principals with their PD and them with their staff members doing professional development every week. They have at least an hour and a half that they're spending, and they're brainstorming and using best practices. So with that, I can say to you that I feel much better with what I'm seeing and what has been reported out from Mr. Thompson last night of what's going on in the district. So if that is happening throughout the district with the other principals, then I feel much better than I did coming in. So just like I aired the information of concerns to you, I'm now giving you the information that I saw last night that I can see us beginning to move forward in the district with the information that they're passing out to the professional development on a daily basis from the principals to the teachers that is now being effective for our students. And that, I think, is a great accomplishment.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. It was certainly a lively conversation.
Yes.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge the district's encouragement about the Camden High School project. I just wanted to publicly say, as a former graduate of Camden High School, it is long overdue. It's happening at the right time. I think the stars are lining up here in the city of Camden. I think is a wonderful thing, and Camden High School is the foundation of education, and has been of education in the city of Camden, and we appreciate all the work and effort that the governor, along with the mayor, Dana Red, and your office for working and making that come true, and we appreciate that. All right.
Thank you, Minister Rossian. it's certainly long overdue. There's a lot of talk about Camden High, and rightfully so. Again, this is a long overdue project. I just want everyone to know that we are certainly mindful of all of our high school students' needs. Woodrow Wilson's facility is about 30 years younger, newer, and in better shape than Camden High's. But that's not to say that all the issues there are perfect, and it's not to say that Brim's facility is in tip-top shape and MedEast doesn't have their own issues. So I just want everyone to know that there is certainly a plan in place for all of our students in all of our schools. Camden High, arguably, though, has been in disrepair the longest and was at the top of the list for, I think, based on very clear facts and evidence. But again, we are mindful of all of our needs.
I just also want to inquire and say that thanks for Camden High, but as a Woodrow Wilson alumni, we also need to look at Woodrow Wilson next. So, I am going to be advocating so we can look into Woodrow Wilson and see if we can make something change.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
The bus tickets being revoked from students who allegedly don't live 2.5 miles away from the school, and I've done some investigation, and I saw on the computer where if a student used the safeguarders that they were still eligible for bus tickets, and I should hope that you would check with your school community coordinators and make sure that some of those students whose names have been on the revoked list are put back on, because if you check that map, you'll find out that they are still eligible. And I would also advise that when a privilege is, I realize it's a privilege, and when it's being taken away, that people are notified in a timely fashion. So, and that someone in the district could look for other resources to have, because $10 is a lot for some parents a week that don't have those means, okay? And I would like the district to be more mindful of when they're taking something away, to find resources to replace it or to give people proper notification.
Thank you for sharing that. And like in the last board meeting, anytime there's an instance where the process has worked against a student and family, continue to bring them to our attention. We've addressed all of them as they've come up. Busing is an issue that's top of mind for us, and we're hopeful that we can actually have a bigger conversation here in a future board meeting to talk about systemically how we can improve some of the issues.
I would just like to, on behalf of the parents in this district, say thank you and your staff for hearing the cry for the school calendar. This is like the Bible for a lot of the parents, because this keeps them up to date with what's going on, taking place, and gives them information on how to reach out to those people that they need in the district. The only concern that I do have is I don't see the meetings that we have scheduled for which is normally on the calendars, the meetings for the District Parent Advisory Council's monthly meetings, the bilingual monthly meetings, and the meetings for their executive councils to meet. And we had asked that they would put on for parental involvement so that the Title I information could be set aside.
So I don't know how far into the printing process it is, but if there's enough time to make that adjustment, we will certainly look into it. I don't know if anyone from our staff has anything to add there.
We
but
submitted the dates
we will look into it.
last month.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that's on us if it didn't make it to
Okay.
the final version, but we'll certainly try to see what we can do.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Just really quickly, through the powers vested in the State District Superintendent under Title 18A, I hereby approve tonight's superintendent's and business office agenda items. I want to now turn it over to our Student Advisory Board members, and I want to acknowledge that those who are not in attendance today, we met with them earlier last week and have heard out their concerns and addressed a lot of those issues. So I just wanted to quickly point that out.
Hello, everyone. I am Khadija Shubrick, and I am a representative for Brim Medical Arts High School. And I just want to start off by saying I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. And also, I want to inform you guys that homecoming was a success. I was very stressed about it, but it became successful. And we were accompanied by Miss Atwood as one of our special judges. And I want to say thank you for coming out and supporting us. And also, our Hispanic celebration program was also successful, and it was a beautiful turnout. We had a music teacher from Creative Arts. I'm sorry, forgive me, I forgot her name, but she was lovely. She sang, she danced, and it was very cheerful. Also, our school took a trip to University of Pennsylvania, and it was School of Veterinary Medicine, and the students observed open heart surgeries, autopsies, trauma units, and all other specialty medicines in the veterinary field. And also, I want to say thank you to Mr. Hernandez from R-Mark. He came to our school this week yesterday, and he cooked for us, actually, this delicious chicken Alfredo on the spot, and I was first in line for it. So I want to say thank you. R-Mark has been doing a great job of keeping us interested in new things on the menu for the children. And upcoming events, I would like to say Tuesday, December 23rd at 9:30, we are having a Christmas show. And I would like everyone to come out once again, like homecoming, and come and support Brim Medical Arts on Coatwood Avenue in Parkside. Also, and I just hope that everyone will have a great and safe Christmas and have a wonderful holiday. Thank you. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Camera Carter, representing Creative Arts, and Nala's here with me. The only problem at Creative Arts right now is we get our interim assessments in the middle of the marking period, and our teachers don't have enough time to teach us what's on the test, so most of the students are guessing on some of the answers because we haven't been taught the things that were on the test. Besides that, everything else is good, and tomorrow at 1 o'clock we're having our show. It's called The King and I, and we're having it again on Thursday at 4 o'clock. That's all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Yalexa Lopez from Woodrow Wilson High School, and so far Woodrow Wilson is doing actually really good. We're working on candygrams, which was a late notice, but it's going so far good. After the holidays, we plan to do a mosaic mural, probably inside of the school or in front of the school. We plan to start a school newspaper based on health, politics, science, entertainment, sports, and many more subjects. We also are trying to reopen our school store, which was shut down. And on Monday, December 22nd, we plan to have our winter show from 1:30 to 3 o'clock.
All right, thank you all.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nala Johnson. I'm also from Creative Arts. I have a question about the interim assessments. Is there a way we can just void them altogether?
Short answer is no, but if there are issues about not having enough time to teach what's in them, then we need to certainly circle up with your principal. The interim assessments, they're not tests that have stakes attached to them. They're just an opportunity for your teachers and your administration to see where you guys are progressing and maybe some areas where you need some additional support. So it's just rich information that educators can use to, again, address how we can get everyone to get caught up in all the skills they need going forward.
Have we seen other places that did the interim assessments, and if it's worked, like they accomplished their goals? Have we seen other areas like state-of-the-art public schools that have done this, that it has been successful?
As far as the superintendents who I talk to regularly, most every school district, again, the superintendents that I talk to, I can't speak for all of them,
right,
use interim assessments in one form or another. It's a very common practice.
Is it? I know some things can be common but not successful, so I'm just wondering, is it successful for?
Yeah, like the way we think about it is, it's just information that is used to support you all. And I can totally understand the argument that it's a pain and it's a hassle and you have to sit down and go through this exam. But ultimately, that information is used to help you all graduate, to help you all get the skills you need as you enter college or career. And that's the bottom line. There are no stakes attached to it, right? So if you don't do well, no harm, no foul.
Right.
It's just, we now know the areas of deficiency. We now know where you need more support. That's all it is.
All right. And also, Khadijah said, I hope everybody enjoyed their Thanksgiving. I surely enjoyed mine. But senior class 2015, we are having a Christmas program at Creative Arts. It's the day before the Christmas break. We all go on Christmas break, so I hope everybody can attend. I'm not sure what the times are. I can get that to you. But yes, we are having a Christmas, and that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Nala. I want to give Nala a quick shout out. She was the lead in Rapunzel recently, which is a Unity community play. So congrats on that. All right, I think we are now moving to public commentary.
I got it. Rules for public comment. The Camden City School District welcomes the attendance and comments from all members of the public at its meetings. This public comment period is your time to be heard on the agenda items in this meeting. Each person who signed up to comment will have 3 minutes. You will be notified when your 3 minutes are up. You cannot yield your time to another person. When it is your turn to speak, please remain at the podium and address all of your comments to the board president or the superintendent. Please conduct yourself in a respectful and courteous manner. For anyone whose comments or actions either harass, intimidate, or threaten the safety of any person, we will provide you with a warning or immediately end your comment time. Also, if you curse, use vulgar language, or make personal attacks, we will provide you with a warning or end your comment time. We will not interrupt you during your 3 minutes of comments. Members of the audience should also not interrupt the speaker at the podium. If you have any questions, please ask your questions during your 3-minute comment period. After the public comment period is closed, the superintendent or his designee will address your questions to the extent provided by law. Thank you for your understanding. First commenter is Keith Howe.
Good evening. My name is Keith Howe. I'm a teacher in the Camden School District for the last 20 years. For 8 years, I've been teaching at Woodrow Wilson High School. Today, I stand as an advocate for the black and brown students that I serve every day. And I need to emphasize this. Jesus said, "Wherefore by your fruits you should know them." Our students are often stigmatized as violent, non-committed, and not intelligent. However, the latest graduation rates show an increase of 10% better than any other public school in the city. Yet we are ignored and ostracized. Last Wednesday, our superintendent made a trip to Woodrow Wilson High School, congratulating our success and focused in on one class. However, there are many great teachers in our school, and the vast majority are committed to advancing our students to their wealthy place. Yet we hardly get any positive reinforcements from our leader, the superintendent, and the Board of Education. Instead, we see support for charter schools, public recognition of them, who are allowed to take the best students while we take them all. Daily, we teach all types of students and accept the challenges because of our passion. Many of our students are either homeless, have no fatherhood, subjected to abuse, and we are their light. It would be nice if the same attention was given to us that you give to charters and others. $50 million is allocated to Camden High. And we don't have a problem with Camden High getting the money, but where's the attention and love towards us? Where's the money for us? Last year, our rates went up 10% increase in graduation rates in spite of 2 of our educational leaders, principals, out on sick leave for several months. What could we do if we had all the supplies we needed? But we will continue to rise. It would be dynamic for our students if they had your total support. Our students inform us that we should be supplied just like other school districts so that they can be on that same level. Many students are concerned about the heat system. Either it's too hot or too cold, mice running in the classrooms. Increasing our technology, lack of supplies. Teachers have to share books. A major technology class does not have computers. You say there's a Camden commitment. Jesus said, "You shall know them by their fruits." Yet the auto mechanic classes, carpentry, sewing, culinary arts have been dismantled at Woodrow Wilson High School. Yes, it is notable for students to be college-bound, but all students don't go to college or want to go to college. The programs eliminated are viable entities in our community. Also consider, since we are last in SAT scores, we should have an SAT prep class.
Thank you, Mr. Howell.
We
Your time is
had
up.
it before, but it was eliminated. In conclusion, as my mentor and first principal taught me, children first, and practice what you preach. And remember, Jesus says you can tell them by their fruits. Thank you.
Latoya Morton.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Latoya Morton. I have a student, Malik Morton, that attends the Mastery School in Camden. And we have about 25, maybe 30 parents with us tonight. And I would like to say that I'm very pleased with the school. My child loves the school. He comes home, their learning is good. Like, he comes home, he's able to sit down and do his homework by himself, and he's in kindergarten. Last year, he was here. He did 2 years of pre-K at this school. It was okay. By the time he left here last year, I think he was maybe counting up to 30. Now he's over 100, you know, with his counting, just with the couple months that he's been there. His reading level has went up since he's been in that school. The teachers, the communication, everything. I'm very pleased with everything there. I wish we could get more schools in the city of Camden, like Mastery, to have better education for all of our children. And I'm sure a lot of the parents that's here with us tonight will also agree with that. Other than that, I guess, you know, that's it or whatever. And I think whoever had something to do with, you know, the schools coming into, you know, the city of Camden, hope that we can just work together, you know, to build more of them.
Keith Benson.
Good evening. As always, I would like to thank the Lord for blessing me with the opportunity to be able to teach young people in my Camden community. But first, I'd like to address the young student representatives here tonight. I want you all to know that all of you are beautiful and bright young people with endless potential. You have all been selected by your school leaders because you have demonstrated maturity and, I'm sure, kindness, and undoubtedly academic prowess. But student representatives don't accept coming here simply smiling with your hands folded and being patted on the head simply for being cute or well-behaved. Conducting yourselves with dignity should always be done, but being well-behaved does not merely mean being quiet. You all have voices and views that warrant serious contemplation, even among adults. Do not feel like you have to come here to talk about how good your school's lunches are, or how your school may have a new slushie machine. Only people who do not expect much from you want to hear immature things like that. But I live and teach here, and we need to see leadership from young people like yourselves. You have to be willing to speak up for what is right, no matter how uncomfortable it even makes some adults. And students, if everything is perfect at your school, that doesn't mean you should sit silently because your personal situation is good. You consider yourselves leaders, as I do. That means you should speak up for others, for other people who may not be as fortunate as you. For the board members on stage, I want to express that I have no personal ill feelings toward any of you, and I am pretty sure that all of you are nice people. But the concerns I have, along with many others in this community, has nothing to do with whether or not you guys are nice. What we want is for Camden residents to control our Camden schools, the same way it is in every other town. We want our voices heard through voting for our board members, not through you all being appointed. We simply want the same rights as all our white neighbors elsewhere. And as long as we cannot vote, as long as our rights are taken, the longer you guys sit in seats we didn't vote to put you in, and the longer you all stay silent about this, that means you guys are all agreeing to be part of the problem. And being nice in your personal lives is not a fix for this injustice. It would really take a leader to speak out for residents about the importance of restoring our voting rights. But thus far, rather than being exemplars of what leadership is, every month you all remind us what leadership is not. Nearly every board member today got appointed because of who you knew, what friend you had somewhere, and most disgusting, what injustice you were willing to ignore if not participate in. Whether it's a county job, a city job, a land deal here, a contract there, this school board's allegiance and integrity has been bought and paid for, and that's not leadership. Leadership takes courage and sacrifice. It takes no courage to side with oppression or white authoritarianism that says that black and brown people should not be directed or directing their own public schools.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Your time is up.
I'm almost finished. Even though every other white district has a fundamental right. In closing, residents and staff members that speak up about voting rights are not your enemies. We want back what is ours. We want back what we never agreed to have taken away from us. We want back our rights, and at the very least for you all to speak up for it. Thank you.
Kevin Waters.
Good evening, members of the Advisory School Board. My name is Kevin Waters, Woodrow Wilson High School graduate, 1973, and I'm currently there as a crisis counselor and anti-bullying specialist. I love Woodrow Wilson High School. I'm here tonight to continue to encourage you to return Camden, its two comprehensive high schools. When I was a student at Woodrow Wilson, there were opportunities to be in college prep, business, and industrial arts. We had advanced classes such as Latin, Spanish, and German, not to mention all the extracurricular activities on campus. Today, as was stated earlier, the industrial arts area has been gutted. There are very few advanced course offerings for students to choose from. Substitutes roam the classrooms where qualified teachers once taught. Our band was fully functional and came from the area middle schools, which fed them right into the neighborhood high school. Now, they go to a magnet school, okay, leaving the two once comprehensive high schools in the dust. Oh, the band at Camden High, okay, is on loan to them. Camden High always had a remarkable band in those days. However, those students back then went to the high. Okay, what happened? In the 80s, there was a push to education reform. There was an effort to redistribute education away from the 3 R's to comprehensive test results. Colleges began to report that students needed more remedial help as they entered their doors, but they forgot they were accepted into those institutions in the first place. Further, it appears that minority communities began to lose students as the testing phase took hold. The curriculum focused on education began teaching to the test and forgot to teach students how to learn. Educational racism, already positioned to destroy urban education, now was able to take hold and add an additional burden with the loss of financial resources. Federal funding was reduced as dilapidated and crumbling buildings in need of repair ruled the landscape. White flight put a nail in the coffin of urban education. Educational curriculums changed and helped to kill the spirit of an already disenfranchised student. Technology was now a tool to enhance education, but urban districts were left out of and off the list. Then politics, greed, and an emotional message that education in public schools was ineffective. Parents were induced into a propaganda sleep, which produced the belief that a new alternative was needed. In came the magnet charter upsurge. The final nail is now being hammered in. Our superintendent in the Camden Schools Initiative said that we have to stop the thought that the district is one thing, charters and Renaissance are another thing. Well, the only problem I see with that logic is that this perception can create the appearance of right. What is clear, however, is that parents have sent their children to these alternatives because they believe they are different. In Cherry Hill, New Jersey, they have 2 comprehensive high schools.
Thank you, Mr. Barfield. Your time
No
is
charter,
up.
magnet, or Renaissance schools lurk there. They understood and understand different. How can we be competitive? Advanced course selections for both high schools. Share in the $50 million. A moratorium on additional charters or magnet schools. Return music to both high schools and create a theater complex in both high schools to provide real choice, end educational disparity, and increase educational balance.
Kevin Barfield.
Good evening, everyone. Superintendent, on page 12 of the talent and labor report. Can you explain what is the chief school support officer, their roles and their duties? And also a comment in reference to the audit. When you're saying that you have $10 million or $8 million set aside for next year, how much of that money is going to be set aside or being set aside for the Renaissance School? And then the other question is in reference to the audit on the findings of the Title I. Again, how many years are we going to keep continuing to have this lax in the Title I, not, as far as accountability, and nothing continues not to be done? Now, on the superintendent's report, no, matter of fact, back to the labor report, those job positions that you have on here that has Title I, are you saying that those positions are now being paid out of Title I money? I see you have probably like about 10 to 12 positions. Can you explain that? And that's it.
Thanks. I'll respond after public comment. Thanks.
Number 6, Robert Farmer.
Good evening, Robert Farmer, CA President and graduate of Camden High School. First of all, I would like to thank the community for coming out last Friday for our holiday celebration. Ms. Wilson also attended. It was a very festive evening, and the community really enjoyed itself. There's about 70 to 80 community members came out, and it was a blast. I also would like to congratulate Woodrow Wilson and the staff and the students for their progress. Keep up the good work, guys. I do have a couple concerns that I'm going to get into. There's been a lot of confusion among members about the new hiring of employees, their salaries. A lot of our members are questioning the high salaries that a lot of the new employees came in on. In future things to do, I believe that information of how the hiring is going to be done, the formula that's going to be used should have been communicated to the membership, and it would have stopped a lot of the infighting. And my office has, there's many members have came to my office requesting how is this done, that I've been here for 20 years, and a person just being hired is making over $20,000 more than what they are. That's, a lot of them felt like they were slapped in the face. They were not, their worth was not recognized by the board. So, I still think some type of communication should come out from the Board of Education describing the formula that you use to hire new employees. Secondly, I went to Camden High School. I graduated in '81 from Camden High School. I fought for the release of the SDA money last year and the year before. We went and we testified before the SDA board, and it was saying that the money was tied up in litigation. That was one of the major delays that they had. I've been waiting for over 2 years for the money to be released. I see that they promised to release it, but what I think the community, the students, and myself need to know, when will the actual work begin? I understand you're looking for a architect or something. When will that take place? Because it's, like you said, Paymon, it's been too long that this school has been, in the condition that it has been in. The next thing I would like to talk about is the evaluation process. I'm receiving a lot of calls in the office from members stating that there's different standards that the lead educators are using and their administration is using. Some of the teachers have asked their lead educators to come to the classroom and model after they've been evaluated. And some of the comments they get is like, it's really disturbing. I don't do well with this grade level.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Your time is up.
And I would just like to say in closing that the administrators are sending letters to members telling them that they're going to fail Domain 4 already for whatever purpose it is. I've got 2 calls today about that, so can you please look into that? Thank you.
Esperanza Bautista.
Mi nombre es Esperanza Bautista. Vengo de la escuela Mastery. Les agradezco mucho que estén aquí con todos nosotros. Yo les doy las gracias a ustedes y a los maestros que están ayudando a nuestros hijos. Yo como madre de un hijo que tengo en esa escuela.
My name is Esperanza Batista. I am a parent at Mastery School. I would like to thank all of you for all of the services that you are providing.
Les agradezco a todos los maestros por ayudar a nuestros hijos.
I would like to thank all the teachers for helping our children.
Tengo un hijo, se llama Andy, está en 2º grado.
My son Andy is in 2nd grade.
Ha progresado mucho en esta escuela. Yo he tenido experiencias en otras escuelas y en esta he visto el progreso de mi hijo.
He has progressed a lot in this school, and in this school I have seen a lot of progress for him.
He visto el progreso porque él tuvo un problema de lenguaje. Él no se sentía a gusto, él no se sentía bien al hablar, y ahora que él está en esta escuela, él se ha sentido mucho más en confianza, en familia, en esta nueva escuela. Ojalá y haya más escuelas como esta.
Originally, he had a language problem, and now with his new teachers, he feels more comfortable. She has seen the progress in Mastery, and she hopes that there are more schools like Mastery so that they can help the children.
Gracias por todo.
Thank you so much for everything.
Number 8, Leticia Bautista. No. Number 9, Yonita Martin.
I'm Yonita Martin. I also have a son at Mastery. And as a parent of children who have attended schools in other states and at least 2 other districts in New Jersey, including Camden, since we've been in New Jersey, I'm proud to say that I'm a proud parent of a student at Mastery. When we first moved to New Jersey, we moved to Camden. I wasn't very happy with the school system, but didn't feel there was anything we could do about it, so we moved out of the district. And life happened, and I found myself moving back to Camden. But worried that my children wouldn't get the education that they needed, I even considered moving back to Georgia instead of moving back to Camden. But luckily, a friend told me about Mastery and the changes that were being made in the school system in Camden, and I decided to give it a try. Mastery is a wonderful school for my son. He's excited about the school. His reading has improved. He just wants to read now all the time. He talks nonstop about what he's learning. It's amazing to watch, and I'm happy with the decision that I made to stay in New Jersey. I thank you all for your support and urge you to continue your support in the schools such as Mastery so that they can keep growing and my son can continue there till he's in the 12th grade. Thank you.
Number 10, Edward King.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity for my voice to be heard and the potential to be understood. I'm an employee of the Camden City School District. I have worked out of the Office of Facilities as an electrician for the past 10 years. Before then, I worked for Housing Authority as the lead electrician, and I did electric abroad. Our mission statement states that the mission of the Office of Human Resources is to recruit, hire, and retain the very best employees who are committed to the district's overreaching goal of increasing academic achievement for our students. On October 21st, the last meeting, an electrical foreman position was given to an individual who has maybe a little over 2 years' experience, an electrical foreman. I say given because the job was never posted. Other jobs were posted: painter foreman, HVAC specialist, custodian. Other jobs, but not an electrical foreman. In an outfit that is commercial electric. This is not your mom and pop's electric. An individual with experience and commitment to this district should have been given the opportunity for not just myself, but others who may be qualified and experienced, because the goal is to provide a safe environment for not just all students, which is very important, but staff also. There are components in these schools that are extremely dangerous. I feel that the position should be reposted. Give the opportunity for individuals in the district, surrounding districts, someone qualified to lead and do a qualified job. I have nothing against the person we have now. It's just that I truly believe that any place requires a minimum of 5 years experience. 2 years and a couple days is not enough. Not when it comes to the safety of our children. Again, thank you so much for my opportunity, and I appreciate you. Have a good night.
Number 11, Lewis Simpson.
Thank you. My name is Lewis Simpson. I'm a 1982 graduate of Woodrow Wilson. I'm here to speak on behalf of Mastery Charter School. My daughter, for the first 4 years of school, K through 3, she did not want to go to school. Today, she goes to school with a smile on her face. That's due to Mastery. Their staff is enthusiastic, and they act like they actually care and they want to be there. They're not just punching time cards. My stepdaughter, Georgiana Brooks, has learned more in one semester than she had learned previous 4 years at Molina School. And for that, I am very grateful and thankful that I took the opportunity and that Mastery took a chance and came into the Camden City. And for that, I'm grateful. But like I said, the teachers at Mastery actually want to be there. They're not there waiting out to the retirement. They're not there just punching the time clock and pushing kids through. My stepdaughter is actually learning something. She comes home and teaches me about Harriet Tubman. She hadn't a clue who Harriet Tubman was when she was at Molina. Nor was it probably even discussed at Molina. But my stepdaughter that stands before you, before the board right now, she goes to school every day with a smile. I don't have to drag her to school. She wants to go to school. And you guys need to put a little nest egg aside with all this money being thrown around for Mastery so they can build a K through 12 school. If you do that, we will have a lot more of my stepdaughters. Thank you.
That's it.
All right, I'm going to respond to some of the specific questions that were raised. Mr. Howland, Mr. Waters, I know that you all discussed some very similar themes and your commitment to Woodrow Wilson, and we certainly agree on the fact that we want to do right by all the students of Woodrow Wilson. And so in that sense, there's not a whole lot more to say but to acknowledge your commentary and the fact that we're doing a lot to support the school. I would politely disagree with the notion that we sat idly as the numbers there improved. We have worked really hard to provide your staff and administration the support that they need, and we believe that things are off to an even better start here in year 2 under our administration with Principal Miles. And we've heard a lot of great feedback from community members and parents and even students on Woodrow Wilson this year. Mr. Barfield, so I'm going to do my best to respond to the issues you raised, and what I don't get to, stick around and we'll continue the conversation. So the Chief School Support Officer, you asked about that role. So it is a role where the people work directly with the Deputy Superintendent, such Sean Gallagher, in the Division of School Support to execute the instructional vision for schools and to provide them a general academic, operational, and fiscal support. And so they work directly with our principals and provide professional development to those principals. You asked about the $8 million fund balance that would be allocated to the 2015-16 fiscal year. And the bottom line is we haven't specified the budget. And so we don't really know how we're going to use those $8 million, but the point was that last year we had $18 million to offset the revenue shortfall. We've made clear that we're not out of the woods yet. I don't anticipate the shortfall to be as large as it was last year. I think it will be less severe, but nonetheless, it is something that we were aware of then and we're aware of now, and we'll use the $8 million to offset the revenue shortfall. As it relates to Title I dollars, they are being used to offset certain salaries. And so these are positions that coach, that help coach school leaders and other support staff and provide professional development. And this is the lead educator position, and the state through Title I is able to offset those salaries by about 50%, and that's a nice way to defray some of our costs. So wherever we can pursue additional funds to defray costs, we have, and the state was very supportive there. Mr. Farmer. All right. So one is about the hiring of instructional staff. I'm just going to make sure I'm reading this properly and we have sufficient information. Look, this is a complicated matter. The rules have changed over the years, and what we're trying to do is be a lot more consistent as far as those who came through the ranks in the school district and those who want to work in Camden from other school districts. What has happened for the longest time, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but that those who are interested in working in Camden, high potential teachers, there was a disincentive to work in Camden because they were not granted the experience they had in other school districts in Camden. They had to start at step one, even if they were coming from Cherry Hill, just to pick a district, with 15 years of experience. If they came to Camden, they would start at step one. That then changed to the number of years they had in another school district, less 5 years. And that's the step that they would be on. So what we're trying to do is, given that we've inherited an imbalanced pay scale, it's something, again, that we inherited. Some teachers came in with the less than 5 years. Some teachers came in with no experience granted. And other teachers, of course, just came through the ranks. We now have to decide, do we have the funds to retroactively pay the teachers to get them caught up? And going forward, what will the policies be? So it's a matter of, are the funds available? And us sitting down with you to discuss, as we negotiate a new contract, what those policies are going to be. And we will continue our conversation in our regular check-ins. But I just want you to know that this is just a structural imbalance that we inherited. As far as when will the work at Camden High School begin, we are going out to design or bid for design architects over the next 18 to 24 months. So the procurement process, because of public bidding laws, are pretty onerous and take up a lot of time. So just that process alone will take 18 to 24 months. And so we're looking at 2 to 3 years at a minimum before shovel hits the ground, and a completion date, a number of years out, closer to 2018-19. So it's going to take some time. Now the benefit there is that we can actually have meaningful dialogue with the community to get input as far as the changes we want to actually see in the building. The teacher evaluation process, we can just sit down and discuss those concerns in more detail. I can tell you that if there are principals that are telling teachers they have automatically failed Domain 4, you should be very clear about where that's happening so we can address it. That clearly should not be happening, but let's talk offline about if there's evidence, and if that's happening, we'll certainly address it as quickly as we can. Mr. King, I thank you for raising the concern that you did. I think that what we need to do is investigate it, and if a job was handed out before it was posted, that shouldn't have happened. And so we will go to the drawing board here, and we'll follow up through Leroy Baylor, your union rep. If that's okay with you, we'll coordinate through him, as he's pretty diligent about raising these matters with us. But I appreciate the fact that you had the courage to get up there and say what you said, and we'll follow up. Thank you very much.
This time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Atwood? Yes. Mr. Brito Bueno? Yes. Ms. Burley? Yes. Ms. Coscarello?
Yes.
Ms. Meaner? Minister Mohammed?
Yes.
Miss Reyes Morton,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
and Miss Blackshear. And I also just want to acknowledge the Student Advisory Board that we didn't do in the beginning. Khadijah,
She was here.
she was here. Wanda Haley, she wasn't there. Nyla Johnson, Camera Carter, Yalexa Lopez. I think that was the one. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everyone.
You've been watching the regular monthly meeting of the Camden Advisory Board of Education. Join us next month for the regular monthly meeting of the Camden Advisory Board of Education.